Yo, welcome back to the channel for all of our subscribers and return watchers. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do that today. And for all of you joining us for the first time, I'm your host, Kenny, and we get into the entire multiverse of pop culture, everything in the different corners of it. We talk about it: anime, comic books, movies, music, all of it. We discuss it around here. So, before we get into the main thing today, this is our long form show, and this is the Fandom Frequency Show. It's episode 28, y'all, and this is where we get into various topics in pop culture, various reviews, news topics, various segments, and things like that. So, before we move forward, let's get into it. And thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Let's go. Now, let's get into the main programming of the show. And it's going to be our first segment of this show. And it is What's the Word? What's the Word, y'all? Where we get into all the news topics, any big announcements, trailers, anything like that that has dropped over the recent days/weeks or whatever leading up to the episode here. And we got a few casting announcements and some release dates and things of that nature. So we're going to be getting into all of that right now. And the first one up today is going to be the announcement of the full cast of Ty West's next movie, the third movie in the X trilogy, if you want to look at it that way. That started with X, and last year it ended with Pearl, or not ended, but the next installment was Pearl, which came out in the fall. I believe X came out in February or March of last year. So those are the first two installments in this new trilogy that he is somewhat creating in this new universe in the horror genre. And the latest one, Maxine, is going to be set in the 1980s in LA with the main character Maxine, played by the amazing Mia Goth, trying to make it in the actual show business, I think, outside of the adult film industry. So will be very interesting to see where he decides to take the plot and where he decides to take the characters and all that. But we got some great actors announced for the cast, and it looks really dope. And a lot of these actors I'm already a huge fan of, or are some of my favorite actors working today or over the last 20, 30 years, what have you. So the list goes as follows. You got Elizabeth Debicki, Lily Collins, Kevin Bacon, one of my personal faves, Giancarlo Esposito, one of the best actors on television when it comes to playing villains, or on screen. So can't wait to see what he brings to it there. Michelle Monaghan coming up in this thing, Bobby Cannavale, the singer Halsey, and Moses Sumney, who is actually a filmmaker and actor in his own right. So that is the whole cast announced for Ty West's next installment of the X series. And for those that don't know, that haven't joined us before, just filling you in on a little bit of details on myself as a horror fan, love the genre to death. Love Ty West movies for the most part. The only one he's done that I didn't enjoy was The Innkeepers, but everything else, including X and Pearl, I absolutely love. House of the Devil, all of that. Even his segments in the VHS video was freaking awesome. So I've been a fan of his work for quite some time now, about a decade or something like that. So I was really, really impressed with those last two films last year. Two of my favorite films of the year. And if you haven't checked out our top 10 horror movies, I'll probably put a card up right there for it. Go check that out. We did a whole ranking for that thing where we got into all my personal favorite horror movies last year, and both of those movies are on the list. Just a spoiler alert right there. So make sure you tune in for that if you want to see where it landed. But love Ty West work, and it's going to be very interesting to see him take on the 80s time period in these period pieces he's been doing between the first one taking place in the mid-'70s, and the second installment, Pearl, taking place in the 1920s during the first pandemic in the country's history in the last 100 years, so to speak. So interesting to see how he's tackling these different topics and time periods and everything, and the way that he's able to seamlessly recreate these time periods to me is just so damn impressive and so well done with each of these movies. So with the phenomenal cast and acting that he's been able to get and performances he's been able to draw out of these actors for the last two movies, and with all the great action, I mean horror, gore, action, and everything in between, the great character development and world building that he's been doing with these films, I'm just really, really excited to see what he's going to be cooking up for this one. There's no exact release date, but it is suspected and has been, I think, rumored that it should be dropping this year. So I can't wait to see it. Let me know what you think about all these actors being cast in the next movie for Ty West. Maxine dropping hopefully sometime here this year in 2023. But that's pretty much it for that announcement. So let's get into the next one, which is going to be the announcement of the release date and title of the Godzilla vs. King Kong sequel, Godzilla vs. Kong, that we got last year from the first installment, early 2022 or 2021. I think it was 2021. My bad. 2 years ago. And that was when they were doing the whole HBO Max release thing, where they were doing day and date streaming and theater release when the whole pandemic was still in full swing. So now we finally get some more concrete information. Besides, so Adam Wingard's coming back to direct. We got a couple new cast members, but the main one being somewhat of an actual big name is Dan Stevens, who got added to the cast. Rebecca Hall's returning. The same actress who played the little girl that was like Kong's new companion is going to be returning to the film as well. And then I think Brian Tyree Henry's dumbass podcast, what do they call it? Conspiracy theorist character. He's going to be returning as well. Unfortunately, didn't like that character. Dig the actor. Hated that character. Really stupid. So apparently he's returning. But the big announcement really here is that this film is going to be dropping in March of 2024 and is titled Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, and is teasing a new like ape type creature or titan, if you will, that him and Kong and Godzilla are going to have to team up and face together after they inevitably get their rematch. And in the last film, Kong got his ass handed to him. Godzilla fucked that ass up, boy. So it's going to be interesting to see if he actually gets that rematch and gets the W again like he did in the original back in the 50s or 60s, I think. Something like that. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. But it's definitely dropping just under a year from now, supposedly, in theaters exclusively. No streaming release date in that kind of way. No day and date. So it's going to have that streaming release window that most movies normally have. But all in all, I am super hyped to see this next installment of the Godzilla Kong franchise. These movies seem to be getting better and better almost with every single installment as well. I've enjoyed all of them to varying degrees. Really, Godzilla Kong is my favorite. Then I'll put Kong Skull Island, Godzilla 1, Godzilla 2. But I've enjoyed all the films. My dad's a huge fan of all that shit, so he's got all the movies and all the kaiju shit going on. So we watch those often around here. And yeah, so that's definitely gonna be cool to see when it drops. And yeah, so that's the other big announcement going on right now. And then this next one is another one that was announced just a couple weeks ago that I'm definitely a little more trepidatious, or have a little more trepidation about, I would say. Definitely not super on board with this one, but they're doing it anyway, so who the hell cares what I have to say, but I'm throwing it out there anyways. Harry Potter is coming back. Yep, that's right. They're doing the original run from the original 7 books. They're doing the original Harry Potter story again in a series format where each book is going to be a new season that they're doing on Max, as it's called now, or will be called here within a couple weeks of this video dropping here on the channel. So by the time a lot of you see this in the near future, HBO Max is now going to be titled Max. And also in conjunction with that announcement, they announced some new projects, and the Harry Potter series is one of them that they're going to be dropping in the near future. J.K. Rowling's on board to help with the writing, and they're going to do a more faithful adaptation, as they say, of the books and really flesh out a lot of the things that they left on the cutting room floor, if you will, or left completely out of the film in the original run of those 8 movies. And the one thing with this announcement that does excite me and intrigue me in certain ways is getting to see the Harry Potter universe once again in live action with more familiar stuff that we all come to love the Harry Potter franchise for. You know, Diagon Alley, Hogwarts, the campus itself, you know, Quidditch and all that stuff, you know, potions and charms and all that good jazz, and, you know, the Room of Requirement and the spells and all the different potions and things that they do with Snape and all the cool stuff that all the lore that a lot of Harry Potter fans fell in love with the franchise with are going to be returning in this. And that's a really cool thing. Another thing is them getting to expand the story, expand some of the characters and some of the lore that they completely left out or only hinted at in the original films, which, as someone that grew up watching all the Harry Potter movies, reading most of the books, keeping up with a lot of that stuff over the last 20 or so years, 20 some years now that the franchise has been around, I'm definitely excited and a little bit eager to see what they could do with that in a series format and getting to expand the storyline and really get to develop more of the characters and things that are going on in there. So that could be cool. There could be things that they could potentially execute even better in a certain aspect as well. But the couple of things about it that for me are going to be either A, damn near impossible, or just almost impossible just to please, or just it's going to be impossible to please everybody, for one, for this aspect, but two, it's going to be damn near impossible to match, if not exceed it anyways, no matter how good they do it, and that's the casting of the main kids and Harry, Ron, Hermione, and all the rest of the cast, between all those legends from all the UK actors and all that shit that came into this thing, and between Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson and Rupert Grint all creating those characters and bringing them to life and really becoming the face of those characters. I think it's going to be hard, especially for people like myself that just were there for it and really have a big connection to it. It's going to be hard for us to actually separate that from the original and be able to take this new version as its own thing. I think it's going to be really, really hard and just damn near impossible to match that, because it just seemed like it was just lightning in a bottle with all the perfect casting across the board of all these films, you know? There wasn't really any bad casting in 8 movies straight, which is really, really rare to say for any franchise or series in general over the course of history of film. So, I mean, to me, I just think it's such a big risk. I feel like it's more risk than there is reward at this point. I wish they would just continue to expand it and do a continuation in some different way with the world of Harry Potter in live action, even at Hogwarts. But hey, it's not up to me. But either way, it could turn out to be dope, could turn out to be okay, could turn out to be lame as hell. I don't know. But we'll have to wait and see if it actually comes to fruition. But very, very interesting announcement, to say the least, man. Very, very interesting announcement for sure. But that pretty much wraps it up for What's the Word, man. That's going to be it for that one. And getting into this next one, getting into the next part of the show, we're going to get into these full series reviews. I'm going to start it off with one of Netflix's latest series, and one that definitely has been hella popular on social media, online, and word of mouth has been spreading around for this one quite a bit over the last week or two that has been out. I would say going on 2 to 3 weeks now that has been out there for people to stream. Season 1, live right now, 10 episodes, half-hour length. I'm talking about Season 1. Who knows if there'll be a Season 2 of the show, Beef. Created by Lee Sung-jin, and also executive produced by 2 of the leading actors in here, which would be Stephen Wen and Ali Wong as the lead characters, Danny Cho and Amy Lau. And this series, man, has such a hilarious premise from the jump. And it's so funny the way that they're able to stretch this out into an entire series. And for the most part, I think they actually succeeded that and nailed that aspect. And the one thing about that is because it all starts off with a road rage incident that takes place where he's about to back out of a parking space. She's coming down the way in the parking lot and almost gets hit by him, flips him off and dips out. And then he's having such a fucked up day that he loses all control and starts chasing after her. And then he gets stuck on this person's lawn that he tries to drive through to catch up to him as a shortcut. And then she damn near almost rams into him, reversing into him straight up, barely stops in time and plays chicken with him essentially, and then dips out again. And then they both just ruin each other's lives from there on out. And it is absolutely fucked up, the certain things that they do to each other. And this is definitely not a straight up comedy, definitely not a straight up drama. It's definitely a dark comedy with those dramatic elements, with those comedic elements, and with that weird artsy fartsy flavor that is known to be brought with one of the best production houses out there, in my personal opinion, and one of the few that's really leading the charge in original content. And not saying that there isn't plenty of original content out there between the indies, streaming, and whatnot, but definitely getting it into the forefront, getting it in theaters, getting it in the mainstream, actually making hits, and getting award recognition and everything in between is A24. Love that production house. I don't love every single film that they've ever made, but I love the fact that they exist and that they're able to get creative, original ideas out there, and they actually make money. They actually get out there. They give people bigger opportunities. Like, for example, the Daniels that just did the directing team and duo that did Everything Everywhere All at Once, sweep the Oscars, sweep the Golden Globes, got a ton of awards for the cast and crew and everyone involved, and are now moving on to also do Loki Season 2 and even more things beyond that, I am sure. So they're already catapulting their career into the next stratosphere just with that project alone, working with A24. That film was also damn near $100 million in box office, one of the biggest hits they've ever done, if not the biggest hit they've ever had in A24's history, and they've been around for about 15 years or something like that. So really, really big things do happen with A24, and I'm really, really excited to see them now actually really starting to experiment more with the TV streaming side of things, because I think if they create full-on series, we can get even more of a renaissance of TV shows than we already have gotten, and can continue to get that in that regard, because that's where I feel the most original content and ideas are coming out and getting the recognition and getting the big stars and getting the kind of attention that more original content could use these days. I think is definitely ringing very true with A24, man, and with streaming in general. So I think those two elements coming together here really create an awesome series. And the one thing with this series that I love the most is that it's just so well paced and it's always entertaining, and the characters are so engaging. Whether you hate them, whether you love them, whether you fall somewhere in between, you just really, really are interested in having a blast with these characters and watching the dumb decisions that they make, the fun times that they have, and some of those more warm, heartfelt family moments and friendship bonding moments that do form between the different characters, like Danny Cho, the main character played by Stephen Wen, between him and his brother Paul Cho, played by this one guy named Young Mazzino, who does a great job in his own right with the character of Paul, and the way that you see their relationship as brothers and siblings really come through in the series, and the way that all these actors just have such great chemistry with each other, man. And when it comes to even the husband character of George, played by Joseph Lee, who's Amy Lau's wife, aka Ali Wong's character in the series, and they have such great chemistry together as a couple, whether they're fighting, whether they're getting along. They really sell that married couple that isn't necessarily the most perfect fit in the world, but are really trying to make things work and make things comfortable for their daughter, and make things better, and give her the best things that they can in the world, and give her, the kind of riches and things that they only dreamed about having as youngins. So the way that they're able to incorporate that in this series, to me, is just brilliant, and I absolutely love that aspect. And yeah, man, but like I said, it's just great acting all around with this thing, and nothing new with A24 especially, or Netflix, or TV in general. But I think this just has such amazing fully fleshed out characters and such great performances between the dark side of things, where characters are suicidal or depressed or have this like level of trauma that they weren't able to fix as a kid and never got that help, and the way that mental health plays such a big role in this series, and shows just how bad deteriorating mental health that is never checked or never looked at or never ever attempted to be improved on, can really wear you down and really put you in a place in life to where you make a string of terrible decisions that completely ruin you. And that's the one thing in this series that I think just is the one theme and aspect of the series that just comes through so clearly and so relatably in this thing, that you can't help but watch, and you can't help but want to finish it. It's like a car crash that you don't want to look away from, pun intended, but you got to see what's going on. You got to slow the car down. You got to slow up traffic to see what's going on with this train wreck that's called Beef, the show. I absolutely love it, and mean that as a compliment, not an insult. It's a beautiful train wreck of two people that seemingly, if they had the help and had the support system that they actually needed around them, and got away from all the negative influences that they do have around them in life, especially the character of Danny Cho, I believe that they could be better people, really be happy, and really achieve a level of success that would still be fulfilling to them as people, and would be able to keep those around them that they love the most, truthfully and honestly, and get through a lot of the bullshit and get away from the BS. But that's the aspect of these characters that I love the most, between Amy and Danny and Paul and his fucked up cousin Isaac and everything in between. You really see all these different aspects of life shown through these characters. And whether they're Asian, white, whatever, these characters happen to be Asian, but what doesn't really matter, and it's not some political statement that's, stomped in the series or something that they're trying to draw all this attention to. It has some of that satire to it. It does have a little bit of that, but it's not trying to be woke. It's not trying to preach to anybody. It's not trying to make a point really in that regard. It's just showing you the perspective of what it's like in America with these type of issues and these type of things going on as Korean people or what have you. So the way that they're able to work that in seamlessly into the plot and into the actors and characters involved and make everything organic and balance it out so that way nothing's feeling preachy or too serious, but you're able to have the right amount of levity to break up the tension and break up the intensity of the moment and everything like that. I think it's just so well done. And the overall directing style of this is so unique, and the way that they're able to edit and transition certain scenes together, and the way that they use these really cool like sound design and editing tricks in certain ways, especially in the finale when they're having that hallucination type of thing going on, to me was just so well done, man. Like the creators of the show, Lee Sung-jin, man, he has so much great potential for the future, and can't wait. And I personally can't wait to see what he does in the future or what they do in the future, because I'm not really sure if it's man or woman, so I guess they would be a safer way to put it. But can't wait to see what they do in the future, because I think their style is just so fresh, so innovative, and so relatable and grounded at the same time. It's something that I think is going to breed a lot of really cool creative projects down the line. So really can't wait to see what Lee Sung-jin does down the line. And getting into some more of the cast members here, when it comes to Ashley Park as Naomi, I thought she did a great job in this series as well. Maria Bello from Coyote Ugly fame coming up in here as the character of Jordan. And a really funny comedian in his own right, Andrew Santino, playing the character of Michael, one of Danny's cousin Isaac's dumbass friends that gets into a bunch of shady shit with them and all that stuff. And everything that goes down throughout the series just gets so outrageous, so fun to watch, endlessly entertaining, and just really heartwarming and hilarious in certain aspects. And I don't think it's necessarily the most hilarious show I've ever watched or seen in a long time, but it definitely has its moments and is really, really funny. But overall, I just love the more darker comedic aspects to it, and the more dramatic elements to it, to me, really worked. And the blend of the humor and the zaniness of it being an A24 type of thing, I really, really dug that aspect of this thing. So I thoroughly enjoyed this season, and there's only a few negatives that I really have with the show overall. One of them being that I felt like once they did that 11th month time jump around episode 8, I believe, episode 7, I didn't really like that as much, because I felt like you skipped a lot of important steps in the character's journey of getting them to the certain place that you wanted them to end in at the end of the show. I think they kind of cheated the system a little bit there, and I think it was just felt unneeded that late in the game to jump ahead in time like that, where I think if they would have jumped a few months at a time in one longer episode and showed us the 11 months broken up in 2 to 3, 4 month chunks, I think it would have felt a little bit more organic, and that transition would have been a bit smoother and had a better flow to it. For the character of Danny to be performing at the church, for him to have gotten the money up to support his family, to get them over from Korea and get them their own place in LA and do all the stuff themselves and get them the rice cooker and get them everything that they wanted and all the accessories and extra hookups and upgrades that he can do to the home. All that stuff that took place in that big transition for both Danny's character and Amy's character, closing the deal, getting the nanny, getting the vacation home, seemingly starting to get a little bit closer with their family again. All that stuff that we got to in that episode 8, I believe, I thought they'd completely skipped over some very crucial character development. And I get you can't have the show go on forever, but since it is a TV series, I would have preferred them to have just jump a few months at a time in this particular instance. And for me, I thought it would have played a little bit smoother, but for me personally, as a watch, for my viewing experience, it was a little bit jarring in that way. But overall, not a huge deal, but definitely was something that bugged me a little bit. And I did think there was a couple of plot points in that aspect of the show, and at that point in the series that they completely dropped and didn't really address again. One of those being how Danny seemed to be dating this girl in the beginning of episode 8 when he was doing the whole singing session, which completely floored everybody. When he did the Amazing Grace rendition and all that, and he ends up, the girls kissing him and all that stuff at the end of that, near the end of that sequence and everything, she's never addressed again. They never bring her up or anything, and the way that they were acting made it seem more like, A, they had been dating fairly seriously for a while, or were already exclusive or serious. So for me personally, I thought they didn't really develop that side of Danny's character at all when they were kind of introducing elements of that, like his ex being at the church that he was somewhat scamming before to try to get the money for this whole renovation and upgrade he's been trying to do with his parents and whatnot, and make up for the loss of the hotel that him and his cousin caused all those months and a year or two ago, prior to the series picking up where we saw it picking up. So all the way that was worked in, I thought was good overall, but at times there were certain aspects of them skipping ahead for those 11 months that really made certain aspects of the characters and certain decisions they made and certain points of their character arc feel a little bit rushed and a little bit of a cheat to try to get you there and not really put in the work and earn it over that course of time that should have been there. So that was really, really not the best way to do it. But overall, I dug it. I really dug the series. It's a really damn good show. I definitely will revisit again sometime in the future, and I definitely am going to be spreading the word. Word of mouth is everything when it comes to these things, so I'm definitely going to be getting the word out there, and all of y'all join me down in the comments below. Let me know what you thought about it. Let us know what you thought about it. We would love to get into a discussion with y'all, and let everyone know around you that we got this review up on the channel and everything like that, and make sure you spread the news around. We got a lot more reviews and reactions, and we do recaps to different TV series that drop every week and things of that nature, full-on season reviews such as this one. So make sure you're tuning in for all that. And also, be sure to know that this review right here is a small segment, a part of our longer form show called Creatively, the Fandom Frequency Show, where we get into a ton of different topics in pop culture. We do segments and everything like that. So make sure you tune into that if you want some longer form content for your commute to work, things of that nature. But if you want that short bit, if you want that quick review, if you want to get right in and out of there, we got this one right here for you guys. So make sure you stay tuned. You don't sleep. We'll catch you again real soon. Check out our long form content, our reactions, all that good jazz. Peace out. Much love. See you again soon. So, as we continue here on with the Fandom Frequency Show, episode 28, it's time to get the last review out of the way. Let's get into this bad boy right now. As we continue here with one of my favorite shows that I have watched in a while as well, and it played out like Almost Famous if it was a TV series, and I'm talking about Amazon Prime's latest series, I believe, called Daisy Jones and the Six, based off the novel, which is about a fictional rock band in the 70s, or from the late 60s and into the mid and late 70s that was like the biggest band of their time in this fictional universe, parallel to our own, of course, where during the whole, it's like they have like a very Fleetwood Mac vibe about them, you know what I mean? And it's about the rise, about the rise and fall of this band, and it's told as like being a documentary with this interviewer told in the early 90s that's documenting all the different members of this band's perspective of the events that eventually led to their breakup in the late 70s. In Chicago, 1979, I believe, if I remember correctly. And this just documents the whole way that the band came together, when they all met, and all the different perspectives from all the individual members of the group. Starting off with the cast here is going to be Riley Coe, who was actually coincidentally Elvis Presley's granddaughter, as Daisy Jones, the title character. We got the actor of Sam Claflin as Billy Dunn, Camilla Monroe as Camilla Dunn, his wife. You got the amazingly talented singer/actress from great movies such as Pokemon, Detective Pikachu, and I'm talking about Suki Waterhouse as Karen Circo, the keyboardist. And we also have Will Harrison playing Billy Dunn's brother, Graham Dunn, the guitarist, rhythm guitar, that is. Josh Whitehouse playing the bassist, Eddie Roundtree. Sebastian Chacon playing the drummer, Warren Rojas, who's got his own Ringo vibe going on. And then we also have Nabia Bay playing the amazingly talented disco singer herself, Simone Jackson. And she definitely needs to get out there as more of a singer because she's got a hell of a lot of talent. That's for damn sure. And then you got Tom Wright playing their manager and record producer themselves, Teddy Price with his own Quincy Jones kind of vibe going. Timothy Olyphant, one of my favorite all-time actors, Timothy Olyphant coming up in here as their tour manager, Rod Reyes. And then the last couple ones here, and you got a newer actress I hadn't seen before playing Bernie, Simone Jackson's love interest in the series. And then you have the actress of Seychelle Gabrielle playing Julia, who turns out to be the interviewer that put this whole thing together. That is actually the daughter of Billy Dunn and Camilla Dunn. And I love the way that that all comes around in the back half of the season, really, or really towards the end at the actual finale, how you find out this whole documentary was getting put together by this interviewer, but the interviewer actually turns out to be Billy Dunn's daughter, Julia, that we see born and featured throughout the series as a background player. And everything like that. And I love the fact that that was kind of like a small little reveal or twist that they had at the end of the season, because I didn't necessarily see that coming. And I think that really, really just warmed my heart and really made it so awesome in the way that, of course, the person that's the kid of one of the founding members of this great band that existed at a time. It's like, if Stevie Nicks had a daughter and wanted to document all of the Fleetwood Mac history and wanted to get into all that and see where everything went wrong and do something that was kind of a love letter to what her parents had built and did before. I thought was just so awesome and beautiful the way that that was revealed and the way that that was executed. You really felt the emotion of that, or at least I did while you watched it, man, and just didn't mean to jump to the beginning right away, but that was just something that really stood out to me as one of the big positives of this series, and I really enjoy this series overall. I'm really into these music biopics. Y'all already know. If you don't know already, I've always been big fan of music. I make my own music. I am trying to become even more of a full-on producer and become more of a musician myself, learning percussion in the keyboard and trying to really express my love of music even more and up my level and up my game. You know what I'm saying? So music is a really, really big, important part of my life. And always has been one of those big things that's always gotten me through the toughest times, been one of the best parts of the funnest times in my life, and is just a main ingredient into what makes me the singular person that I am today and what makes me the individual that I've grown to become and the man that I am standing before y'all in front of this camera talking to you today. So music has always been a big part of my life, and music biopics and series and documentaries and things documenting the perspectives of musicians and the ups and the downs and the things that come with becoming a rock star, becoming a known, famous musician, to me has always been infinitely interesting. And when done well, it can really, really become some of the most interesting stories that you can really watch or consume or read. And to me, I think it definitely has a lot of the familiar aspects that a lot of music biopics tend to have. But I do think that I'm not sure exactly which elements from the book are exactly put into this series. I never read the book, so I don't know exactly where the changes and where the similarities lie in this thing. But the one aspect, or there's some certain aspects to this that I think really does break up the normal formula for these type of movies, like the non-linear storytelling, and with them having a documentary of telling the different perspectives and us seeing the stories that they're telling come to life and not always everything in the exact linear order. I thought really broke up the pacing and really kept you on your toes about where you would jump to in the story and how you would jump to hours or days before in different places to get other characters' perspectives and how they all came together and how this all boiled down to how they broke up. And even though from the very beginning of this thing, in the very first frames of the series, that this band will break up, that they did achieve amazing success and everything like that, but the journey and how they get you to the destination, to me, was executed so well in the fact that it subverted your expectations at times. Other times it didn't. It just kind of played into some of those normal tropes. But for me, doesn't ever get completely old and uninteresting. So for me, it's always entertaining to a certain degree. And for some of y'all out there, maybe you're sick and tired of that formula entirely, so that might bug you. But for me personally, didn't bug me. So all those elements of how it feels like that music biopic, but the way that you saw these different fresher elements, like how Billy Dunn was an addict, but really kicked it very fast and only relapsed there near the end and never relapsed again, I thought was a very fresh, refreshing thing that you don't see from a lot of frontmen in rock music biopics, whether fictional or true. And when they're true, I understand they got to address what the situation was and how it actually truly went down. But for me personally, I love the way that for this fictional version, they kept all the members alive. No one overdosed. No one died or got in an accident or whatever, right? Like, or actually, I take that back. Daisy did overdose, but she didn't die. So I do love the fact that the characters had consequences and realized the direction they were headed in would ultimately be their downfall if they didn't try to get their shit together just as human beings. I thought was really well done and really beautifully told and really rang true, I think, for all those out there that may watch this that are struggling with depression and or substance abuse or both. You know what I'm saying? Some of those beasts and some of those forms of negativity and some of those signs of the devil lurking out there in the shadows in this crazy planet we call Earth, our home. That will really get to you and that will really stick with you. So the way that really rings true here in this series really hits for me, man. And one of the only other mixed elements for me though too was I did feel a few of the members like the drummer, the keyboardist, and Graham even at times, the rhythm guitarist. I do feel like they got a little overshined at times, you know. And I do also feel like that they didn't necessarily get as much character development as I would have preferred. Because for this being a 10-episode series, and for there being 45 minutes to an hour each episode, I think they definitely had the real estate and time and to be able to give those characters more screen time, to give them more of something to contribute to the overall story, not just the music per se, but really the story and the progression of the story and the character development and all that good jazz. I do think they kind of let me down in that regard. Not that they didn't have any development whatsoever, but not really enough as much as the other people. And even if their experiences were a little bit different because A, they weren't as into heavy drugs, and B, they weren't as into wrestling and MMA, so they didn't really get into these deep confrontations with these kind of things, you know. So I just really dug that fact and really dug the way that they did that and threw that all together, man. And just the performances overall in this series are so well done, whether it's the fun moments, whether it's the actual, you know, performances and the recording and the actual music side of things. I think they all do a phenomenal job. Like Riley Coe and Sam Caitlin, if they're really singing, really need to start taking their music more full time. I believe Riley Coe already does, or Q Coe. So I don't know how you say it, but I'm gonna go Riley Coe. But the way that Riley Coe is able to just really have these powerful vocals and the way that she's able to just like elevate the performances altogether in those musical scenes, to me is so awesome. But everyone holds their own. Everyone does their thing, you know, like I mentioned earlier with Suki Waterhouse. She is a musician that has played big festivals like Coachella and things of that nature. I'm sure has gone on the road, has been around for a while, so she definitely held her own as well in that regard. But since she wasn't doing any vocals or anything too crazy outside of some of that keyboard action and wasn't getting all Jerry Lee Lewis with it, no one's necessarily sticking out in the same way as the other members of the band that do get more Jerry Lee Lewis, Iggy Pop, you know, more crazy with it. You know what I'm saying? So that's something you got to build to and kind of figure it out. So getting more into the cast of characters in this thing as well, and even though they didn't get as much development as I would have liked at times, they definitely received enough for me to get connected to the characters, and that was definitely in the character of Simone Jackson. I absolutely loved her journey in the way that she was able to discover the true potential of her talent and what success really means to her and what fame is really worth and what everything is really worth in her life and what truly makes her happy. I thought that journey and that realization of not selling out to me was beautiful. It was so well done and told and felt organic and felt realistic. You were almost kind of doubting that she would choose that path over, you know, getting the fame and getting that kind of recognition and that kind of emptiness that would inevitably come with the fame, and she had to give up everything that meant the most to her in her personal life. So for me personally, I thought that storyline was really well told in that second half and really brought everything together for me for the character of Simone, because in the first half, I thought she only served Davy's story and didn't have one of her own. So I do enjoy the fact that midway through the season, they started to change that, and that last 3 to 5 episodes really delivered in that way for me and for Simone Jackson. Gave you a little more insight into the disco scene, gave some more references through Heat Wave and things like that, Diana Ross, what have you, and really gave you that vibe and really got to showcase her talent as well as the other guy, as all the other guys and Daisy Jones and the Six. So I did appreciate that, getting to see that perspective and some of the black culture in there in that time period, and getting them to tell an actual storyline that people can connect to, relate to, and see the difference in time and how far we have come in certain aspects of of things out there. I really, really dug Timothy Oliphant's character of Rod Reyes and the way that he was kind of the voice of reason and really the more experienced guy in the industry that saw the talent they had and saw that they were good people deep down and met them in their early days and gave them the connections and got them out there. And I really love the way that he was able to play this too cool for school attitude that he's normally known for playing, but bringing it in an even more subtle way and just fit into, I don't know, man. Something about Timothy Olyphant as an actor just always fits right into every project and role that he has seamlessly and just fits like a glove. He just always manages to bring all the characters to life in such an awesome and unique and interesting way. He's just one of those actors you just can't take your eyes off of when he's on screen. You know what I'm saying? So I really dig Timothy Olyphant's character of Rod Reyes and really liked his role in here and how he came in the key moments and really brought a lot of levity as well to the proceedings and brought that aspect forward as well. Want to give a shout out to Tom Wright's character of Teddy Price. Really enjoyed his character overall as well and thought that he had a very interesting journey and cool character arc and awesome role that really supported the other characters but gave a lot of deeper layers to the characters as well without losing layers of his own. So just really like the storytelling they did with the characters here in this series. All the music and performance scenes are well done. The music is well written, well mixed, well put together, and I really just dug the sound and that whole Eagles kind of folksy, Rumors, Fleetwood Mac vibe that they were bringing to it. I really, really dug it, and just can't wait to see what all these actors do in the future and what all these creatives behind the scenes do between Scott Newstanster and Michael Huber, the creators of the show. I think they did a great job adapting this material and bringing it to life and bringing something different to the biopic genre or music kind of realm for movies and things of that nature, and doing that Almost Famous Cameron Crowe type of vibe thing, but with the streaming vibe that we got going on today with television in this modern era. So really, really cool stuff. And for all my music lovers out there, I highly recommend this series. I'm definitely going to give this one a very strong 8 out of 10. Really enjoy the hell out of this series. Recommend it to all of you out there. If you want something a little more lighthearted, but isn't necessarily shying away from any depth or any darkness or anything like that. If you dig both sides of that kind of thing, this is definitely for you. Make sure you're clicking all the buttons below, like, subscribe, everything like that. We got a lot more full-on season reviews, movie reviews, reactions, all kinds of stuff going on here on the channel. So make sure you're clicking that subscribe and the bell button so you don't miss any of that goodness. And this is a part of our longer form show as well, the Fandom Frequency Show, that we drop at least a couple episodes every month for, where we cover various topics, various reviews, and all that good jazz. So make sure if you need some long form content for your commute, you want to watch some longer videos, you want to listen to something for your commute, vacation, what have you, want to listen to it at the gym, make sure you listen to this on the podcast feed. We do these 45-minute to hour-long episodes and so on and so forth. And sometimes we go even 2 to 2.5 hours. So the long-form shows can range, whatever we're feeling, however much we got to talk about. If there's more guests on the show, because they're not always solo like now. So make sure you're staying tuned for all the dopeness we got going on here on the channel. And thank you for watching. We'll catch you again on the flip side, y'all. Peace. And that's it for that little clip out right there. But for this long form episode 28 of the Fandom Frequency Show, y'all, we enjoy doing this. We really dig these long form shows because it's a chance to, be a little loose with it, kind of go off the cuff and kind of get into various topics in one video and have a lot of stuff to discuss with y'all down in those comments below. So for those of you that stuck around through the whole thing, thank you so much. We appreciate each and every one of you, watchers/listeners, all you subscribers, everything like that. We're getting close to 300, so let's get us there sooner rather than later. And we're going to catch you guys again real soon. We got some more niche movie reviews to round out April, getting into May with Guardians of the Galaxy right around the corner, and a ton of fun, awesome content here to come. So make sure you stay tuned. You don't sleep on any of that goodness, that dopeness. We love you. Can't wait to see you again, and we will see you real soon. Peace out, y'all.